Mind-Body Connection podcast.
The body and mind.
With your host, Dr. Phil Parker.
Welcome. It's just gone 6:30 in the UK, which means we're doing yet another relaxation and calming session. So welcome to everybody who's listening in on Clubhouse or who's viewing this on Facebook, because we're streaming on two platforms this week. And today's focus is going to be on learning how to deeply become relaxed and calm. Those of you who've been here on this platform before will know that I've been training for many, many years to learn some skills that just through the power of words and my voice will help you, really help you to feel relaxed and calm. And all you need to do is just tune in and listen. And today's session is going to be on specifically learning how to become calm, but also learning how to develop a deeper sense of self-compassion, which is something that is a theme for this week, because it was Self-Kindness Day at the beginning of the week. But it should be something, of course, that shouldn't just be one day a year, because self-compassion, self-kindness is a really significant factor, not only in emotional well-being, but also in health. There's an interesting study they did where they had people doing self-compassion meditation, and they examined the ends of the telomeres, which are the little parts of the genetic structure, and they found that those people who did self-compassion, there was an improvement in the integrity of these little ends, and very often with aging they start to fray. But it turns out that just the self-compassion exercise has an effect on that genetic structure. So what we're going to do is, as people come into the various rooms, welcome everybody, whether you're on Facebook or Clubhouse, great to see you. What I'd like you to do is, if you're hanging around, all you need to do is just turn down the lights, switch off distractions, and if you are driving, obviously don't listen to this, or pull in to the side of the road safely, because as you relax naturally, your focus becomes more internalized and your whole body just slows down. So let's begin. What I'd like you to do, as you listen to the sound of my voice, I'd like you to pay attention to the words, their meanings, and the spaces in between the words too. Because your unconscious mind, which is the part of you that takes care of you, it remembers to do things like have a drink when you're thirsty, to breathe when you're asleep, to control and manage your muscles throughout your whole being and body. And so, as I talk to you, I will be communicating on a number of different levels to both your conscious and unconscious mind. So just allow yourself to enjoy the experience. And to start with, what I'd like you to do is to allow yourself to notice your breathing. Just become aware of the speed at which you're breathing, where you're breathing. Is it happening in the upper part of your chest and the lower part? Or maybe you're breathing more through your tummy or your belly. But wherever it is, that's fine. Noticing that, noticing where you are, the sounds around you, how your body feels right now. So where you're touching the surfaces in the room, temperature of the air around you, maybe even the feelings at the back of your left knee or your heel on your right foot. And as you do that, I'd like you to allow yourself to just drift all the way back in time to somewhere that for you is deeply and profoundly relaxing. And I don't know where that will be out of all the hundreds and thousands of moments in your life. But as you drift back here now to this particular calming, relaxing place, notice as you do the first things that just draw your attention. Whether that's things you can see that are close to you, or maybe things slightly further in the distance, over there. Colours and shapes and shades, movements and stillnesses. How deep those colours are. The sounds and silences that allow you to even more deeply reconnect with these powerful, relaxing experiences and sensations. And just by doing this and stepping into this neurology, two really important things begin to naturally unfold. First of all, your body switches gently and easily into a part of its nervous system called the parasympathetic, which manages relaxation, nourishing, nurturing, calmness. And this is really, really good for us. It gives us a break from focusing outside and lets us just flow and drift in a really healthy way. And the second thing that naturally occurs as you do this is you begin the magical process of rewiring and retraining the neurons and nerve pathways in your brain, which in turn allow easier access to these powerful and important, deeply healing physiological changes, so that each time you hear my voice, either in your head, slowly talking, or if you re-listen to this at another period in the future, or if you just take a few moments to tune back in to this session in your memory, it will be enough to re-spark and to switch on these powerful and life affirming pathways. And now, as you drift deeper and calmer with each breath that you take, allow yourself to focus on this important sense that I mentioned at the beginning of self-compassion and kindness. Self-compassion and kindness is an essential building block to moving you through your life, to doing whatever is important for you. And it's essential as a starting point for being there, present and kind for others. So take a few moments and begin by connecting with what it feels like to be in touch with that sense of calmness and kindness somewhere in your life, a moment where you really noticed how it feels to be calm and kind towards someone else. That might be a friend in need, might be an animal that you're fond of, a person, child, where you're in touch with that ability to really be present and kind and well-intentioned and forgiving to that other person. And by doing that, connecting with this sense of kindness, I'd then like you to just turn that towards yourself, to generally bathe yourself in that kindness from top to toe. Just pour that into yourself with each breath that you take. Notice how that feels. Now, for many people, that's slightly less familiar and takes a little time to allow in and gain that familiarity, and that's okay. In the process of developing self-compassion, we need, first of all, to be kind as we're learning to do it. So if you notice any aspects of you that are having different conversations, just be kind to them. If you find your mind drifting, thinking about things that are not relevant to taking this time for yourself, just be kind to them as you bring yourself back to this conversation. And particularly, I really invite you to not just scan your body for compassion, but to notice if there's any parts of you, any aspects of you, whether that's your behaviors, your actions, the way you relate to other people, or any physical parts of you that you haven't got a great relationship with right now for various reasons. To begin by bringing kindness and compassion to those parts of you. Now, for some people that feels like a strange and unusual thing to do. If that's you, then that's great, because that means this is probably a part of you that does need a bit or possibly a lot of kindness. So that could be a physical part of you that's not doing quite what you want it to do. Could be a relationship that you wish was different. It could be the way you're relating to someone else that you wish was different. It could be some conversations you've been running in your head that you wish you didn't have. Bring kindness to those. Treat them like Ram Dass suggests. He said, "When I go into a forest, I see the trees. And I notice the trees, some are tall, some are small, some are straight, with huge canopies, and some are struggling to find their way up to the light. So they twist and turn, move in different directions slowly like trees do, growing against the wind, trying to find that light." He says, "When I walk in the forest, I see the trees and I admire them. I admire the tall trees standing tall. I admire the little trees for believing that one day they will be there, bathed in that light as they grow. And especially, I'm thoughtful for the trees that have had to twist and turn and bend themselves and shape themselves to find their way up to the light." And he said, "And I notice that I'm not so good at that when I see people trying to get what they want. When I see them bent out of shape, strong and tall or tiny. And maybe I need to learn to bring that kindness I see and give to the trees, to other people, and especially to myself." So I wonder, do you treat yourself like you might treat those trees, just doing what they can do, trying to get on, not perfect, not symmetrical, just doing their best? One of the things I often say is everything we ever do, given who we were, what was going on at that time, the resources, situations available to us, we made the best decision we could have done based on that moment. We never go out of our way to cause ourselves trouble. We're always trying to find solutions. Sure, sometimes they don't quite work out, but we're always well intended in one way or another. And so as you learn what you need to, both consciously and unconsciously from today's journey, slowly allow yourself to stretch into this new version of what's important. So important to spend time every day reconnecting with what's essential for you. You can get caught up in the everyday stuff, bringing yourself back to a few moments for you. Some people might think that's selfish. It's not. It's really important to spend time for yourself so that you can give to others. So appreciate and acknowledge the fact that you've spent this time today, whether you're listening to it live or you're listening to it on catch up, that you spent the time for yourself today as a gift to yourself so you can be present to you and present to others. And so slowly bringing this feeling back, we're going to come back to the room in our own time, just bringing yourself back. And as you do, notice where you are, what the temperature is like, what your breathing's like, as you come back fully, but with a renewed sense of what's important for you in terms of taking care of yourself, being present in a new way. And then we're going to open up the floor to questions. So we've got, as I say, a feed from Facebook and a feed from Clubhouse. If you would like to ask a question on Facebook, just pop it down in the comments. Or if you've got any comments about what we've just done, what it felt like, do put them down. I can read them out. If you're on Clubhouse and you want to contribute, then please just wave your hand or unmute your mic if you're on the stage. Emma, how are you doing there?
Hi, I have got a poor connection, so if I drop out, that's why. I hope you can hear me. Really relaxing and reminded me of that book. I don't know if you've seen it, Be More Tree.
Tell me more, Be More Tree.
It's really thinking about what we can learn from trees in terms of our own resilience and compassion, and I feel that that's just so powerful. So thank you, Phil.
My pleasure. So I was talking just before the call. My dog has just come in, if you wonder what that noise is in the background. Just before the call, I was talking to a really lovely friend of mine who I've met recently on Clubhouse, who's a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, who is also a Dryadic priestess. So she studied with indigenous tribes in about 5 different countries, where they particularly pay attention to trees as being spiritual ancestors. I think I'll have to find out more about the details from it, and that's one of her things. So she combines cutting edge PhD neuroscience research with a kind of a deep connection with ancient traditions around the power of nature. Interesting stuff. There's a few comments coming in, so thanks for talking about trees, Emma. Let me see what the comments are. Very soothing, excellent. I love the idea of being kind to others and then feeling it in yourself. Very good. Do you think that listening to one of these sessions once a day can make a significant difference to the immune system and healing over time? Absolutely. The evidence is quite clear that if we spend time encouraging parasympathetic nervous system activity, which is the part of us that nurtures us and is actually involved in immune system function, then we do get a positive response. If we look at the opposite side of the coin, if we live in stress, that's absolutely clear that is really destructive for us. So anything you can do to get out of the stress cycle is going to help you. And as I said in the meditation, not only does it help you in that moment, it rewires your brain so it's more likely that you'll be able to be that way in the future. So it works on 2 levels. If anybody in the audience in Clubhouse does want to speak, just click the hand button and we'll get you up on stage. We've got some other questions here from Facebook. There's a question about the lightning process here. Do we have a children's version of the lightning process? For a 7-year-old, I think it would really help them. Yes, in fact, the youngest person to do the lightning process was about 5, I think. But 7 is a good age to do it if they want to. There's a slightly different version of it, still the same materials. But if they're up for it, that's always when you're working with children, the first thing you need to make sure is they want to change, not just the parent wants them to change. But yeah, absolutely, they love it. And when working with kids just generally, kids are so much more used to learning new things. They don't bring with them a lot of baggage about, is it true? They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'll take it on if somebody's telling me it. So they're very often more ready to take on new ideas. Eleanor says The Hidden Life of Trees is a brilliant book. Is that the one you were talking about, Emma? Was that the same one or a different one?
talking about Be More Tree. It's how to be more tree. Essential life lessons for happiness.
Be More Tree. So we've got 2 tree books there. I have to tell my friend Dr. Soroko about this. Be More Tree and the Hidden Life of Trees. I was lucky enough to wake up and feel the incredible love of trees. We're all talking about trees today. And Chris Wood, funnily enough, whose name has the word a tree reference in it, said it was really humbling and beautifully. Thank you, Chris. When should you do this for better sleep? So those guys on Clubhouse, in Clubhouse it doesn't record it, but if you do go to my Facebook page, philparker.author, you'll find a recording of this so you can listen to it again if you fancy. It's all free. So the question was, when should you do this for better sleep? I would do it at sleepy time, just before you go to bed. If you put it on Facebook and turn it down, it should be fine. There are also some standalone audios if Facebook is... doesn't quite work for that, you can download as well. So just go to the website philparker.org to find that. The other thing with sleep I'd recommend is quite often people with sleep issues start to prepare to sleep badly quite early on in the day, so they can actually wake up in the morning and go, God, I won't sleep well tomorrow either, or tonight, and then through the day they keep on reminding themselves. So you could listen to it at any of those points where you notice yourself getting into that state. Nina says, thanks, really nice, a good reminder about being kind to myself. When I work a lot with peak performers, elite sportsmen, business executives, and it's amazing how poor they are at being nice to themselves. People who you would say, well, they have got a lot of reasons to feel pleased with themselves, and they're not. They're really tough on themselves. And when we ask them to say nice things to themselves, like, you know, you're okay, or strongest thing they could say, which is I love you, to themselves, they find it really difficult because it's unfamiliar. And if anybody was in the room I was talking about, the Mind Body Doctors room yesterday, and I recommend, if you are on Clubhouse, come and join us. And if you're not on Clubhouse, get on it, find someone who's on it. We have 3 PhDs all interested in the mind body connection, talking about stuff. And one of the things I was talking about, and my friend was also talking about, is when you speak to yourself, the evidence is if you use a you statement, it's more powerful. So instead of saying, I am worth loving, or I am a kind person, or I can do this, it is actually more powerful to say, you can do this. You are a kind person. That you statement, and anyone who's listening who's done the lightning process will recognize this, that the internal coach that we teach you to do is all about you statements. So make sure you're using you statements. Then we've got Alan is saying, sessions are really helping me recover from long COVID. Excellent. Are we doing research on long COVID? I'd love to be involved. Yes, we are doing some research on long COVID. It's early stages. There's 2 things we're doing. One is we've done a case history study with some doctors. Second thing is we're trying to get grant funding for a larger trial, which is a bit tricky at the moment because there's not much money about floating around for long COVID because it's such a new condition, so they haven't quite worked out. Normally what you do is you go to, if you're doing some work on, say, skin problems, there would be a skin charity who would have funding for it, but there are no long COVID charities so far. Last time we looked. Joan Marie says, this is great, really relaxing. Enjoyed the explanation of the parasympathetic. So you may have heard the terms parasympathetic and sympathetic. I've used them a few times. They're strange terms. Sympathetic nervous system, which sounds like it should be nice, is the opposite. The parasympathetic is flight and fight, getting yourself ready for action. Very useful. We need it. It's really important, but we don't want to switch it on all the time because it's very damaging for us if we do. Parasympathetic, on the other hand, calms us down and helps us to recover and restore. So if you're being chased by a tiger, you need sympathetic, but once the tiger event is over, then we switch into parasympathetic, which is about healing, recovering, digesting, all those kind of things. Michelle says, very relaxing, and another Michelle says, great, she's going to re-listen. And we have Angela saying she falls asleep easily when she listens to my track on binaural beats. Yeah, that's something I did a few weeks ago. I don't know if you know about binaural beats, but basically it's where you have 2 slightly different frequencies and you hear both the frequencies and the difference between them. And if the difference is about 1 hertz, 1 cycle a second, it helps your brain to go into theta state, which is related to sleep and that kind of thing. Karen's going to be kinder to herself. Excellent. And Michelle's saying, when I have symptoms flare up, I can be hard on myself. Yeah, really, really don't. It's the kind of worst thing you could do when you have symptoms. Do the opposite. Almost always do the opposite, but particularly in this case, be kind to yourself. Because, of course, as soon as we get being hard on ourselves, that switches us into sympathetic nervous system function. It's all about stress, which reduces our immune system function, and we need our immune system and our nervous system to be functioning well to recover. Eleanor, do drop us an email, Eleanor, about the COVID funding. Chris says, do you think 4G TV can affect our immune system? Interesting question. I don't know. There isn't any research that I've seen that confirms that. But we are living in an electromagnetic soup that is only less than 100 years old. As a human species, we haven't lived. We've lived near trees, and trees actually communicate. You may know this. Trees communicate with each other, both through the roots and often through the air. Send little chemical messages to each other. But yeah, we don't know. We don't know what is the effect of living in the modern world with Wi-Fi, 4G, TV, and all the rest of it. I'm kind of torn about it because I really love it. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have it. But I do wonder what the consequences of swimming in this electromagnetic soup that we can't see are. We also have seen a lot of people electromagnetic issues, and also chemical issues where they're very sensitive, and we found you can actually help them using changes in their neurology to be able to navigate the electromagnetic spectrum and be okay with it. So difficult to have a complete answer on that, Chris. Good question. All right, any other questions? Pop them down. Emma, anything to say? We're going to close the room in a minute and end the Facebook. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that was comprehensive. Just feeling relaxed for the rest of my evening now, as always on a Wednesday, Dr. Phil. I suppose perhaps already just tapping into one of the questions you've already answered about if you're doing one a day, what sort of benefits would you notice? Is it, I suppose, in terms of all the research, in terms of the positive effects of meditation and relaxation, how do you keep yourself accountable to meditation and relaxation, if you do at all? How do you bring that practice into your daily life with all the busyness and commitments of career and family? How does that work?
Good question. So every year I make a commitment to doing more of the things I tell everybody else to do, and by about the 5th of January I've forgotten to do it. This year I've been much better. I've been much more intentional. I'm quite lucky in that I can switch into quite a good state quite easily because I've spent a lot of time doing it, so I don't have to spend a lot of time at the beginning of the day to set myself up. So as the day goes on, I can, if I find myself getting a bit bent out of shape, I can regroup quite easily. But this year I have been being much more intentional and going, right, before I check my email, before I go on Facebook or Clubhouse, I'm going to actually spend some time getting myself into a good state, doing some meditation, doing some work on myself, because we can all do some work on ourselves to improve how we're functioning and how we're thinking, and just deciding that's what I'm going to do. The real test is when you have a busy day, like making sure you get up a bit earlier to do that. So how do you do it, Emma?
Well, exactly. So it's just something that was on my mind. I thought I'd ask for myself and for anyone else, in the room or the various platforms that you're streaming this on, because I think I can set an intention, like you say, at the beginning of, a 3 or 6 month period or ahead of the year. But what I find often derails is when you have these projects come in, these big pieces, which is ironically when meditation and relaxation and refocusing would be its most beneficial. So just always looking for those tips. For me, I suppose it's really just the morning is a great time for me. I'm an early riser by nature. But yeah, no, interesting to hear. Thank you for sharing. Would be interested in any other tips from anyone else in terms of how they fit in.
I remember talking to somebody who said, and I think this is quite key, he said, time spent meditating is never time wasted, because that's what catches us, isn't it? It's like, well, if I do that, I'm not going to get down to the proper things. It's going to take another 10 minutes or 15 minutes before I do that email I've got to do. And so then we go, I can't be bothered doing that, I'll just get on with the email. So remembering it's not wasted time, which is often how we kind of coding it when we're busy. It's like, I haven't got time for this, it's not important enough. I'm going, no, it's actually, this will set me up so that what I do next will be better. So that'll be my final top tip on that. How's that helpful for you, Emma, or anybody else who's tuning in?
Yeah, really helpful. I think for me, meditation seems to combine with painting. So I tend to sort of go to canvas and perhaps just have that moment where I'll be just focusing my mind on that movement, and that's, I think, something that I find really helpful. But yeah, I think having a routine, having an intention, building that into a habit, and seeing that why, your motivation, I think is, a really good, strong startup to get this in place.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, the other thing is, of course, listening to audios like we just recorded this one today, that makes it easier. Just like stick it on, sit down, look at a tree, then it's not going to demand much from you, and you will get the same as if you have to stay focused. I find myself drifting very easily. So having something to kind of keep me on track, I find personally very useful. Okay, guys, we're going to end this session. Great to see you.
The Mind-Body Connection podcast
The body and mind.
with your host, Dr. Phil Parker.